Hello, I'm going to be talking today about one of my teachers. As you know, there's Rich Dad was my teacher, my poor dad was a teacher, but also was Dr. R. Buckminster Fuller. And I'll be doing a 3-day workshop in October, and it's on how to predict the future. And now, some of you go, how do you learn that? Well, Bucky Fuller was considered a futurist. He made, I think, 50 predictions, and at the time of his death on July 1st, 1983, 48 had come true. One of his last predictions that he made was the prediction that there would be a new technology entering the system before the year 1990. And as most of us know, the internet entered in 1989. That changed the world again. So Bucky died in 83, but he predicted this new technology would emerge, and right on schedule it emerged. So I've had the fortune since 1981 to study with Bucky Fuller 3 times in my lifetime, and each time it changed my life. But one of the most important things he changed was my vision of the future. So the reason I could change my life was very simply because I changed my future. I could see what was coming up in the new millennium, things like this. So this is a picture of Bucky, and if I could change this out, I'll show you one of his pieces he worked on. This here is called the Dymaxion map, and I won't go into it. But he said one of the big misconceptions our school system did was it talked about the 7 seas and all that stuff and the different continents. And he said, really, and this here is, I think, a icosahedron or something that he did. He says, when you look at planet Earth, it's really a one-world island. We're all connected. We are not separate, but our school system, by using Mercator projections and other type projections for maps, shows us as separate. He says we really are all connected as one world. So this is where he was sort of changing the way I thought, and this is what people call a geodesic dome. He basically put the Earth's projection on top of a geodesic dome, and it could spread out like this. So what Fuller was always doing his best to do was change the way we saw the world. And when you can change the way you look at the world, you can see that we're not separate, but we're all one people, one world. We think differently. So this is just an example of some of the more simple things he talked about. The 3-day I'm going to be doing about is about the future, but it really is what Fuller taught me on how you, number 1, predict the future, number 2, change your future, and number 3, create your future. And the reason I think this is the single most important 3-day workshop I'll do is because, as you know, the future is changing rapidly today. The reason people are getting wiped out fundamentally is they still think the future is going to be the same. They still think the future is going to be the same as it was for their parents. Like my mom and dad always said, go to school, get good grades, safe, secure job, save money, get out of debt, invest for the long term. That's bad advice because the future is rapidly changing. The other question is, how do you change? And number 3 is, how do you create? So the reason Fuller was so important to me when I studied with him is because he wrote many books. Like this is, and I didn't read all of them, but this is one on synergetics. And it was called The Explorations and the Geometry of Thinking. It's one of the most complex books I ever tried to take on. Fuller also has this book here. It's called Inventions, the Patented World of R. Buckminster Fuller. Who's Who of America has him down as the single most accomplished American in history simply because he's had more patents after his name, more designs after his name. And Harvard claims that he is their best graduate. The problem is he never graduated from Harvard. He was thrown out for the same problem I didn't do well. It's called extracurricular partying. So Harvard still claims him as their best guy. And the American Institute of Architects claims to him as one of the greatest architects of all times, but Fuller never was an architect. What he was he just thought differently. And he graduated from my sister school, the U.S. Naval Academy, and I graduated from the U.S. Merchant Marine Academy. And what Fuller said was that men of the sea think differently than men of the land. So because he was a man of the ocean, and I grew up on the ocean also, we operated via different principles. So for the 3 days coming up in October, I'll be talking about how you predict, how you change, and how you can create a better future for you. But the way you do that is by changing your view of the future to see the way it's really coming. Of all the books Fuller wrote, and there are many of them, The only book I fully understood was his here book called The Grunch of Giants. And this will be the study book. It's probably his simplest of all books he wrote. But this is the book that helped me create the Rich Dad Company. It is this book that allowed me to not be a victim of the subprime mess, of all the people that are flipping houses, all the people that are saving money, all the people in mutual funds, and all those victims of the financial system. When I read Grunch of Giants, I understood I could see a different future for myself, my friends, my family, my company. So Grunch stands for Gross Universal Cash Heist. It is about how the richest people in the world are ripping off the poor and the middle class. And the way they rip off the poor and the middle class is via government or a thing called the Federal Reserve Bank. So Bucky writes about this in this book here. Now the beauty of this book here, it's made me extremely wealthy because I could see a different future. So the 3-day is going to be about, again, not only the future, but how the thought process. I'm not going to say this is a crystal ball and you will see. I will teach you how you can predict your own future. I will teach you how to change your future. And the biggest way we change our future is not be a victim of the financial system. Look, the Federal Reserve Bank prints money. The question is, why don't you print your own money too? I know some people say, oh, it's counterfeiting. That's not true. So what we'll be going over in the 3-day is how you can change your future by understanding a thing called ephemeralization or leverage, as Bucky says. If you notice, the Rich Dad Company is a very rich company. We have zero debt, but we have lots of assets, and we're constantly printing our own money. I don't work for money. I print my money. Then I buy real estate. Then I buy gold, silver, oil, and all those other things. And then by that, you learn how to create your future. And my friend Blair Singer will be teaching that via a thing called PERT charting. PERT stands for Planning, Evaluation, Review Technique. So if you're interested in our next 3-day, I think it's the most important 3-day seminar we can do, simply because the future is changing rapidly right now. And I'm not going to tell you the future, but I'll give you the opportunity to teach yourself how to predict, how to change, and how to create a better future for your family. So this is video blast 1, and there would be 2 more video blasts on what the 3-day will be about. But right now, this is the big picture: predict, change, and create your future, because the future is changing. And Bucky Fuller was known as a futurist, and that's one of the most important things I learned from him, was how to predict the future, then change my future, and create the future I wanted. Thank you.